Hello, my name is Vincent Stevens, and my mini project is on the trend in violent crime from the state crime dataset. In an article by the Pew Research Center, violent crime has been reported to have sharply declined over the past quarter century from when it peaked in the 1990s. The relevance of this claim can't be overstated because recent current events of school shootings and other sorts of violence have kept gun violence in the limelight, giving the appearance of a country resorting to violence now more than ever. Should policymakers enact stricter measures on guns and violent actions, or are these events declining in their frequency? It is important to see whether or not the gun violence measures that are currently being taken are justified. So my question is, what is the true trend in violent crimes in all states from the period of 1985 to 2012? For my abstraction, basically an abstraction, what it does is it takes real world events and puts them into numbers or other forms of data that we can manipulate. So in our project, the abstraction of state crime is a list of state crime reports. Each of these individual state crime reports are individual dictionaries that have a number of properties relevant to our questions. These include year, which is a numeric property or integer, and it's important because the total number of crimes across the country for each year are needed. The year is going to be on the x-axis of my plot, so it's important to have it within the data. Violent is a dictionary, and this basically defines all the different types of violent crimes that I'm looking for, and all is a numeric integer that depicts the total amount of violent crimes in the specified year. This is important because it's basically the Y value, and it's what I'm looking for is the amount of violent crime per year, so it's important to have that total amount. While the data does a good job showing the trend in violent crime over the whole United States, it is limited in how it describes localized violent crime. Basically, the data doesn't show violent crime in cities, so it limits how specific we can get. Another limitation is a lack of stating how many deaths per each violent crime. So while there aren't as many violent crimes that are completely recorded, there can be more violent crimes, if that makes sense. There could be a less total amount of crimes, but each one could account for more people dying per se, so it would show up as less, but when actually there were more. And the last limitation of the data as it pertains to my question is that it doesn't include years past 2012. Without matching that data from the Pew Research Center that goes all the way up to 2016, I can't make deductions about the trend up to 2016, only to 2012. So the data structure, I have it explained in depth over here on the left, but essentially the big points are year, which is an integer and is located in the first dictionary, and then underneath data in the second dictionary we have totals, which is another dictionary of its own, which contains violent, which is a dictionary of its own, and these are all the different types of violent crimes that I'm going to be including. Within violent there is all, and all is an integer value that includes the total amount of all these crimes for the specified year. For my visualization, I took the year down here on the x-axis and I plotted it from 1985 to 2012, and I compared it to the total number of crimes. So basically for each year we had the total number of crimes in the whole United States. So it started out increasing until about 1993, and then from that point on it decreased. This relates to the article that I originally found, the Pew Research Center article, in a couple of ways. As you can see, from 93 on, both of these decrease as well. So the overall trend of all three is similar. But the difference is these are rates, and mine is total amount. And I did this just because I wanted to compare and contrast a little differently and see if there are any discrepancies. But towards the end, it turned out that there really were not. So the answer to the question I asked, which was, what is the true trend in violent crimes in all states from the period of 1985 to 2012, was answered by, basically, it was very congruous with the Pew Research Center article. It was increasing until about 93, and then decreasing from there on after. One thing I do want to point out is that while the graph seemingly makes the number of violent crimes out to be low, it ends around 1.2 million. So while crime is indeed decreasing, it's still very prevalent in society today. So some specific stakeholders that could take interest to this study are some government policymakers, gun manufacturers, police officers, along with several others. Some impacts that the study could have are knowing of a nationwide trend of decreasing crime could impact the allocations of police officers and funding for police programs. This would happen on a state or a national level. And finally, some potential conflicts among stakeholders could include government policymakers and weapons manufacturers over the regulations placed on owning weapons. Whereas weapons manufacturers would want to obviously bolster their sales and keep selling the products, government policymakers would see that maybe we need to have less guns, and this could be a potential conflict. In conclusion, seeing the amount of violent crime in the past is very important because it can help lead us to what may or may not happen in the future. And as we know, the future is best dictated by the past. So thank you for listening. I have neither given nor received unauthorized assistance on this assignment.